Hey everyone, welcome to God's Plan Your Part Year 2, where this year we're reading through and studying the entire New Testament one chapter at a time. Thanks again for joining us in discovering God's plan and your part in it.
Today we are digging into 1 Peter chapter 4, and I'll tell you, spoiler alert, Jenny's hot take is that this is more of the same. That's what she said as soon as we read it.
In a bad way, but it's definitely going to be similar to what we've talked about for the last 3 days.
Okay, we've been laying the groundwork here that Peter is doing a lot of talking about suffering, and he is making the point that Christians will suffer. And when we do suffer, we should at times do so willingly to the honor and glory of Christ. So there's a lot more of that here in the chapter. I'm curious what actually did stick out to you from the chapter.
I guess the first part, there were like 2 sections for me. I always like doing this. It always helps my mind to process what we've gone over. So the first part seems to be more about being gracious in a time of what will be full of persecution. But then the second part says, don't be surprised when these things happen. You have to endure. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I saw it.
Mm-hmm. I would say, as we read over, it's a pretty short chapter. Again, you should go read it for yourself or listen to it for yourself. It's very important. God's words are more important than our words, so make sure you get them. I would say, as I'm reading through 1 Peter, Peter, I think, comes across as though he has no context whatsoever for a person who calls themselves a Christian yet does not completely live as though they are a Christian.
Wait, can you say that again?
So Peter doesn't seem to make any space for somebody who says they are a faithful believer in Jesus.
Talking and walking.
And are not walking that out in an active way. And I would make that point from verse 3, for the time that is past suffices for doing what the Gentiles want to do, living sensuality, passions, drunkenness, orgies, drinking parties, and lawless idolatry. With respect to this, they are surprised when you do not join them in the same flood of debauchery, and they malign you. Jenny thinks it's debauchery, by the way. You can tell us what you think.
Stop.
But they will give account. So, Peter's saying, hey, look, you know what the world does? And he does call out specific things. You know what the world does? It's going to surprise the world when you're not involved in those things at all. And I know historically, I guess in my own walk or my own background, there was definitely a point in my life where I'm like, man, Christians just seem so lame when they don't, at least partake a little bit.
Engage at all.
Yeah. And Peter's just making this very strong case that hey, you are a new man. You're a new woman. You don't live like that anymore. And you are living for the honor and glory of Christ. That is, you are drawing attention to Jesus at all times in all situations. And sometimes even today, I can kind of feel overwhelmed by that. Man, I don't get a break at all. Mm-hmm. But I think I want to encourage myself, and I want to encourage everybody that's listening. We want to set a high bar, and we want to rise to that high bar. We don't want to see that bar is high and think, that's just too high. Can I just stay right here? Because that keeps us from growing spiritually and probably personally as well. But it also does not bring the glory and honor to Christ that we are supposed to be bringing to Christ. Mm-hmm. And another way that I'll make that point is verse 10. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks, as one who speaks oracles of God. Whoever serves, as one who serves by the strength God supplies. So he's saying hey, if you're good at speaking, when you speak, it should be by the power of God. If you're good at serving, when you serve, it should be by the power of God. It's not like this, hey, we have a need, can you fill it? It's man, I am passionate about serving this way or speaking this way or teaching this way because God has called me to it and God will strengthen me to do it. So that's encouraging me today. I hope it's encouraging to you as well. Any other things that you want to point out in this thing?
Well, I guess that goes along. We were just talking right before this about spiritual giftings, and we were talking about how God has gifted each one of us with specific skills and giftings for whatever the work is that he has set out for us. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned that I was questioning just a conversation that I had heard about, well, this is my gift, so this is what I'm good at. I'll help you with whatever, I guess, but this is what I'm good at. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Is this seems to be kind of along those same lines.
No, I think sometimes we can try to make that argument because we just don't want to do stuff. Okay, and I think that God's calling us to do stuff. I realize that's a severe oversimplification. But we should be meaningfully engaged in moving the needle for Christ in our culture. And it is so tempting to take a back seat and think, well, somebody else is doing that, or that person has a loud voice, they're taking care of it. The pastor is dealing with that. The teacher is teaching that. The guy on TikTok is doing the thing on TikTok. Like, no. All of us have a part to play in this, and all of us should be engaged in playing that part. Imagine if tomorrow everybody who calls himself a Christian decides to be 110% engaged in living out their faith as though they are a Christian. We would see a noticeable difference immediately. And so I think I just want to encourage everyone to be that difference wherever you are. And I know myself, like there are times, I had lunch with a guy today, and we were talking about sharing the gospel. And he was like, I just want to make sure that I'm actually sharing and presenting the gospel at all times. And while I was talking to him, I felt it in my own heart, soul, and spirit. Like, oh, if I did that, I would seem weird. And I don't want to seem weird. And it's like, man, what are you doing? I think I don't love blaming things on Satan, but I bet Satan loves that. When it's like, well, I don't want to do that. That would be weird. And I think I can directly connect that. I can directly connect that to verse 14. If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed because the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. Okay, so it's like we don't live like the world lives. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. And we should be drawing attention to that, not in a prideful, arrogant way, but like, hey, I have something and you need it. So Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ. Do what I'm doing. Bring honor to Christ. Is that going to get people to be like, what is up with you? Yeah, of course it is. And when people think you're weird because you're trying to actively serve the gospel, you're trying to actively serve Christ and build his kingdom, that's a great thing, and we should be thankful for it. So my response to that guy at lunch should have been, I didn't actually say any of this, but my response should have been, I would seem really weird if I did that, and that would actually probably be a really helpful, good thing, because it would be drawing attention to Jesus. And if I could just do one more thing to draw attention to Jesus, that's what I want to do. And I got to grow in this, guys. I need to. And my guess is you probably need to, too.
Yes, that is true. When I'm not distracted by all of our kids, yes. No, but I think verse 12. So that's like where the new section starts. So it's after being gracious, regardless of the fact that you will indeed have persecution in your lives. I like verse 12. It says, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you, but rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when the glory is revealed, or his glory is revealed. So I like that it spells that out for us, because I think sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we feel that persecution, I guess, if you will, like people make fun of you for what you believe, or they think you're crazy for what you believe. If you have family that is like that, or friends that are like that, or people you work with that are like that, or have that mentality, it says right here, don't be surprised when those things happen. So I think that is, although a strange verse to be encouraged by, it is, because like we're supposed to expect that people that haven't experienced Christ's love or the gospel in their own lives, they don't understand this until Jesus has made that difference in their life and they allow him to do so. So I guess I really like that point specifically. Like, don't be surprised when this happens, because it will.
Okay, my final point comes from verse 17. For it is time for judgment to begin with the household of God. First point. Historically in the Old Testament, when you hear household of God, that's talking about Israel, God's people. We've talked about that earlier in a couple episodes. Peter here is purposely shifting that and recognizing that the household of God is the people of God. I made the point earlier at one of our previous episodes that the people of God have always been God's chosen people. God's chosen people are always the people who obey God. So he's making that extension that all of us throughout the world who are following Jesus are part of that household of God. And judgment here is not final judgment. It's actually purification. So when we are striving to live a life that honors Christ, we do fall under correction. And sometimes God uses hard things in our lives to bring correction. And that's a good thing. Okay. And it can be tempting to think, I don't want this. I can't endure this. This is too much, whatever. That thing I said earlier, if people think you're weird because you're following Jesus, that's a
It's
good
probably
thing.
a good thing.
It's actually going to make you stronger. And it's very likely that it's going to make them stronger.
And all the glory to God.
And all the glory goes to God. We don't live for ourselves. We live for God. And I think probably like a really pointed, tangible takeaway is just if you want extra credit, make a list of some of the things that you do every day, like an actual list, write them down. And then look at that list of things that you've written down and say, how can I honor God in that thing in a public manner? I think you'll see a difference in your life. I think you'll start to think through like how you can actually leverage your daily decisions for God's glory, because I do think there are opportunities that we miss a lot of times because we don't want to be weird or we don't want to work harder. But God is glorified when we experience hard things, and to his honor and glory, we jump up to that bar instead of falling away from it.
Final verse, though, I think is what pulls it all together. And I don't know if you want to
Go for it.
I mean, I guess you did kind of your part, but it does like sum up all of it. Therefore, let those who suffer according to God's will entrust their souls to a faithful creator while doing good. So just because you're feeling persecution, not a big deal, because it's actually doing good. You're entrusting your soul to a faithful creator. So I think that's pretty.
I actually love how
Good
Peter is
charge.
consistently calling us to practical good. A lot of times we can get kind of stuck. I've seen it done lots of times where we're not saved by works, we're saved by faith, right? But once we are saved by faith, once we receive that free gift of salvation that is from Christ that God has given to his elect, we live good works because of the good work that's been done in us.
I guess imagine for a moment if you have been, if your salvation story involves the works of someone else. Imagine if that person would have only been a faith, not works person, and how that would have directly impacted you. So I think that's a good way to think about it too.
Sometimes we unintentionally cut works out of the picture because it seems like it's just such a bad word or something.
Right. That's so silly.
But you're not saved by good works, you're saved to good works. So we do good things that honor Christ. We live some kind of way to honor Christ. Because we are working out and showing the salvation that is in us. So we are sanctified every day. That is, we're made more and more like Jesus every day by striving to live like Jesus every day. And we don't want to make excuses for ourselves. I think we're probably all pretty good at that. And you know yourself really well, so you're pretty good at making the right excuses for yourself. But again, don't shrink away from that bar. Rise up to meet it. And I am growing to love this letter. I'm enjoying it, even though it is a lot about suffering. I think it's really good encouragement. So I hope you are encouraged. There is only one chapter left in 1 Peter, chapter 5. It's a shorter one as well. So we'll be talking about 1 Peter 5 tomorrow, and then we'll be jumping into 2 Peter. We'll see you then.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed the episode today and are enjoying God's Plan Your Part, we would love it if you could help us in two ways. First, if you would give us a rating and review for our podcast, we would really appreciate that. And second, tell your friends, tell all your people that you rub shoulders with every day to listen to the podcast and also give us ratings and reviews as well. That being said, here is the reading for today.
1 Peter chapter 4. Since therefore Christ suffered in the flesh, arm yourselves with the same way of thinking. For whoever has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, so as to live for the rest of the time in the flesh, no longer for human passions, but for the will of God. For the time that is past suffices for doing what the Gentiles want to do, living in sensuality, passions, drunkenness, orgies, drinking, parties, and lawless idolatry. With respect to this, they are surprised when you do not join them in the same flood of debauchery, and they malign you. But they will give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is why the gospel was preached even to those who are dead, that though judged in the flesh the way people are, they might live in the spirit the way God does. The end of all things is at hand. Therefore be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another, as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks, as one who speaks oracles of God. Whoever serves, as one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. But let none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or as a meddler. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. And if it begins with us, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? And if the righteous is scarcely saved, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner? Therefore, let those who suffer according to God's will entrust their souls to a faithful Creator while doing good. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of God's Plan, Your Part. Don't forget, you can find us on just about every social media platform and YouTube. Let us know what you thought of today's episode, and if you have any questions, go ahead and post them there. You can also reach out to us directly at godsplanyourpart@gmail.com. As always, if you don't have a Bible, or if you'd like to use the one that we use, reach out to us via email, and we'll be happy to send one to you. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you again tomorrow.